The villainess who cares only about magic circles enters a political marriage with the crown prince to read an ancient grimoire. Episode 4, beginning the Silvane family's grimoires. When the heavy oak door opened, Lysette was enveloped by the scent of old paper, dust, and faint ink. This was the library in the east wing of the Silvane Marquisate. Shelves reaching to the ceiling held works of history, law, and literature. Among them were several dozen spellbooks and grimoires inherited from previous generations. For a mid-ranking noble house, it was more than an adequate collection. At least, it would have been for an ordinary 5-year-old.
Wonderful, so these are this world's official texts.
Lysette's pale violet eyes gleamed like a predator discovering its prey. She did not hesitate. She went straight to the shelves on magic and sorcery, rapidly scanning the titles on their spines. Foundations of Modern Magic. Drawing Elementary Attribute Magic Circles. The Inner Workings of Magical Tools for Everyday Life.
I should begin with an introductory text. I need a complete grasp of the rules and conventions used by modern magical theory.
Lysette fetched a step stool and pulled out a thick copy of Foundations of Modern Magic. She dropped it onto the reading desk with a heavy thud. Then she arranged the ink pot and stack of blank paper Marie had prepared for her. More precisely, Lysette had insisted that Marie prepare them. In Marie's opinion, it had been closer to a demand. She also stacked long, narrow strips of paper at the edge of the desk to use as bookmarks.
Now then, let us see what you can do.
Lysette opened the cover. Time passed. Several days later, Marie, the head maid, was beginning to feel slightly relieved. After driving every one of her tutors to defeat and graduation in only a week, what would become of her young lady? Marie had honestly been quite worried. But now Lysette spent every day quietly reading in the library. No strange cries. No clinging to the floor. She sat neatly in her chair. Wonderful. Peaceful. For a 5-year-old young lady, it was an exceptionally adorable sight. At least from a distance. My lady, are you feeling tired? I brought you some warm tea and baked sweets. Marie pushed a serving cart into the library, but Lysette answered without looking up from her book.
Please leave them there.
Please do not push yourself too hard. You seem to be reading nothing but difficult books.
Difficult? No, Marie, this is easier than a picture book.
I see. Marie tilted her head and looked down at the desk. Then her eyes widened. A single thick spellbook lay open on the desk. The problem was its side. Dozens of narrow paper strips protruded from between its pages. Homemade page markers. The book looked almost like a pincushion made of paper. My lady, what exactly are all those pieces of paper sticking out of the book?
Oh, these.
Lysette flipped open Foundations of Modern Magic.
This is the most elementary of fundamentals. It describes the process of converting magical energy into an attribute and releasing it through a magic circle. I have spent the past day examining this one volume.
Just this one volume.
Yes, it would be a shame to skim it. So many passages are fatally imprecise that I have been breaking down each problem one by one. It offers concepts but almost no concrete numerical definitions. I marked every missing definition and every leap in logic as a discovered defect.
Lysette pointed to a page covered in markers. Tiny, merciless comments were written on them. The coefficient of magical conductivity is unspecified. Reverification required. The explanation retreats into intuition. Begin again from the definition.
This chapter is especially problematic.
Lysette tapped a page bristling with markers.
The author claims that a combined water and earth magic circle requires 5 buffer formulas to prevent the magical forces from colliding. But that premise is wrong. Shift the phase by half a wavelength and the interference cancels out. 1 buffer formula is enough. That alone should reduce mana consumption by more than 30%.
Marie said nothing.
Even this single book reveals many habits of modern theory. These may not be one author's mistakes. The same holes may exist throughout the entire system.
Flip, flip, flip. Even while speaking with Marie, Lysette moved back and forth across the same pages again and again.
Wasteful, and I see no reason to rename the symbol here.
Each brief murmur added another marker to the chapter. Marie quietly backed away with the serving cart. She is quietly reading a book. No, that is not it. My lady is not reading the book. She is dismantling it and grading it. The peaceful library had become a public execution ground where a 5-year-old monster of logic passed judgment on the author. Elsewhere, that evening, Cyrus de Silvane, head of the Marquisate and Lysette's father, was taking a moment to rest in his study. He had silver-black hair and calm gray eyes. He was a serious and honorable nobleman.
Marie, how is Lysette? I bear some responsibility for what happened with the tutors. Perhaps we tried to teach her too much at once.
Ever since hearing that every tutor had been defeated, Cyrus had secretly worried about his daughter's state of mind. My lord, the young lady is reading quietly in the library. Marie paused for a beat. However, the books she is reading are somewhat, extremely dangerous.
Dangerous?
They are not children's picture books. They are grimoires, and the number of page markers is most alarming. The previous night, Marie had quietly moved several grimoires to a higher shelf, far beyond the reach of a 5-year-old. But by morning, 3 step stools had been stacked together, with Lysette standing on top. That was when Marie had calmly decided to report the matter to Cyrus.
All right, I will go check on her.
His beloved daughter was quietly reading. Imagining such a peaceful scene, Cyrus breathed a sigh of relief. Then he headed for the library. He opened the door. The first thing he saw was a pile of advanced grimoires on the desk, and his 5-year-old daughter turning one book into a mass of page markers. It was not a peaceful scene.
Lysette, what are you reading?
Oh, father, good evening.
Lysette looked up and set down the book in her hands. The cover read, Theory of Large-Scale Magical Barrier Construction. It was a specialist text that could trouble even court magicians. Naturally, its side had become a pincushion of page markers.
I am reviewing the spellbooks in our collection. I have analyzed 3 foundational texts in detail. I am still working through barrier theory, but I have already found several flaws.
3, no, wait. Even I needed months to understand that specialist text. You have already begun studying barrier theory.
Yes, but I do not understand it completely. Simply reaching the end would be meaningless, so I am dismantling the formulas I can understand, extracting their shared defects, and classifying the sections I cannot yet understand as pending.
With a trembling hand, Cyrus picked up one of the books covered in markers. He turned over the first marker. The monoconsumption formula for this barrier deployment is wrong. The author should begin again with arithmetic.
Lysette, did you write this?
Oh, that commercial spellbooks are all astonishingly carelessly designed. They publish formulas riddled with defects as though nothing were wrong. Follow these instructions and the caster will either collapse from mana depletion or trigger an uncontrolled discharge. Those are the only 2 outcomes.
Cyrus went pale. His daughter was reading authoritative textbooks used at the Royal Academy and works by magicians remembered throughout history. And his 5-year-old daughter was dismissing them as riddled with defects and telling their authors to relearn arithmetic. As her father, he had to stop this. At the very least, he could not simply do nothing.
Lysette, I am forbidding you from reading advanced grimoires for the time being.
Why?
The reply came instantly.
Because they are dangerous. You are only 5. If you tried something from a spellbook incorrectly, the consequences could be far worse than an injury.
That is a reasonable concern.
Lysette nodded without resistance. Cyrus almost felt relieved.
That is why I have conducted no full experiments. First, I dismantle existing formulas on paper and identify the conditions that cause them to run out of control. Verification is performed with low-output model formulas.
His relief lasted exactly 1 second.
Model formulas.
Yes.
Lysette took out a blank sheet and drew a simplified magic circle in fine lines. She released the smallest trace of mana from her fingertip. A pale ring of light appeared over the paper for an instant. Then it vanished with a tiny snap.
A failure.
Lysette.
It is all right, that failure was intentional. Built according to the original theory, the mana pathway becomes blocked here, but if the phase is shifted by half a wavelength.
Beside it, Lysette drew another, nearly identical magic circle. Only one symbol faced a different direction. She applied the same amount of mana. This time, the pale light began rotating while holding a perfect circle. Success. Or so it appeared. But in the next instant, the ring of light warped. The circle doubled and blurred, and a tiny symbol Lysette had never drawn appeared inside it.
Oh.
Do not say, oh, something just appeared.
Cyrus instinctively stepped back. Marie reflexively grabbed the ink pot from the desk. At the very least, she would prevent it from spilling on the floor. It was the head maid's immediate judgment. Lysette stared wide-eyed at the fading symbol.
That is strange.
For the first time, certainty vanished from Lysette's voice.
Shifting the phase by half a wavelength should have cancelled the interference, but according to my calculations, this symbol should not exist. It appears neither in my formula nor in the original grimoire.
Then was it a failure?
Yes, it failed.
Lysette answered at once. She did not look disappointed. If anything, she looked intensely serious.
Part of my hypothesis has collapsed. Modern theory is not the only thing that is wrong. My assumptions about how mana behaves are also incomplete. The formula itself may contain a layer that cannot be seen from the outside.
A layer that cannot be seen.
Yes, rather than a hidden support symbol simply becoming visible, it looked as though the formula reacted to our interference and generated the missing element by itself.
A faint excitement entered Lysette's voice. Not because she had been right. Because she had found something she did not understand.
I must correct myself, Father. My hypothesis is nowhere near complete, but I can control the danger. At this output, I can stop before the paper scorches, and I have recorded the conditions of failure.
Is that something to be proud of?
It is important. Grimoires are not dangerous. Believing them without evidence and failing to record mistakes are dangerous.
Cyrus was lost for words. He had come to scold her. He had intended to forbid her research. Yet his daughter had acknowledged the risks and redesigned even her experimental procedure around safety.
Very well, but I have conditions.
Conditions.
Before any experiment involving mana, you must report it to either Marie or me. You are forbidden from testing anything in this house without permission.
Reasonable, then I may continue low-output model formulas and verification on paper.
You may.
Cyrus admitted defeat. His feelings as a father were complicated, but as a lord, he understood that stopping her now would be the greater loss.
Is my daughter a genius? No. Can this truly be dismissed with a word like genius?
Even after Cyrus left the library on weary feet, Lysette paid him no attention. She immediately returned her gaze to the book. Later,
Something is wrong.
as Lysette resumed reading, the unease smoldering in her heart for several days slowly began to take shape. She did more than read quickly. She excelled at extracting the shared rules between books and assembling them into a complete picture.
This world's modern magical theory is certainly systematic, but something about it is unnatural. It is not elegant.
Lysette spun her pen and glared into empty space.
Every book explains in detail how the fundamental formula symbols are combined, yet not one of them addresses the underlying principle of why each symbol carries its meaning.
It felt as though someone had handed her only safe, prepared components and taught her nothing but how to assemble puzzles with them. Her instincts as a programmer in her previous life sounded an alarm in the back of her mind.
It is deliberate. Someone intentionally restricted this system of magic. Perhaps it is a safeguard against catastrophic runaway reactions, or perhaps it is a lid hiding something that must not be known.
Lysette's heart raced. Her goal was not to play with the safe toys she had been given. It was to break through this wall of restrictions and touch the foundations of the world. That was what Lysette's intellectual curiosity truly desired.
I am finished with the books on modern theory. I have extracted every foundational rule I need. The information I seek is not here.
And so, exactly 1 month after Lysette began shutting herself inside the library,
Finished.
Lysette snapped the foundational grimoire shut on the desk and stretched. Marie stood with her mouth open in disbelief. Finished with what?
I have reviewed every foundational spellbook in our collection. I also completed formula-by-formula analyses of the most important volumes.
Lysette turned and surveyed the long rows of shelves. Her merciless page markers bristled from the sides of every major foundational text. The scene resembled a graveyard of monuments in the Silvane library.
Marie, please tell Father something for me.
Lysette spoke with a quiet flame in her pale violet eyes.
These foundational texts have reached their limit. For further research, I would like him to obtain more specialized grimoires.
More specialized grimoires.
Yes, first, advanced texts used at the Royal Academy and papers left by court magicians. I need sources that reach beyond the surface of modern theory.
Lysette looked down at the foundational text covered in markers.
I understand the basic theory, but it has been made too neat. This is knowledge after someone removed the dangerous parts and made it easy to read.
Her pale violet eyes narrowed quietly.
First, I will search for the traces of what was removed. Advanced Royal Academy texts or papers by court magicians may still contain clues.
The color drained from Marie's face. She placed one hand against the wall. Specialist texts, academic papers, they were not forbidden books, not yet. Even so, those were not words that should come from a 5-year-old. 5 years old and nearly 6. At the corner of Lysette's desk, the unfamiliar symbol from the model formula had been copied again and again. The symbol appeared in none of the Silvane family's grimoires. Lysette's analysis of the world's defects was finally preparing to step beyond the fundamentals. Episode 4, Beginning the Silvane Family's Grimoires. End.